I'm Paul.
I'm Jen.
And we're Camryn's parents.
I would say initially we were shocked because they told us, first of all, that she had cancer, and second of all, that it was neuroblastoma. And neither one of us had ever heard of neuroblastoma, so we had no idea what that meant for our daughter. So the shock of dealing with cancer and then a type of cancer that you'd never heard of was pretty overwhelming. Yeah.
First, we didn't really know what was wrong with Camryn. We knew she had some signs and symptoms of some sort of illness. Working with our pediatrician, ruled out a bunch of potential causes. He even ran a test that ruled out cancer. So that wasn't even really on our radar of a possibility of a cause of why she was the way she was. But after a month of continued testing, we finally stepped it up a notch and went to a specialist. And it was the day that I was working, and Jen took Camryn to an orthopedic specialist, pediatric orthopedic specialist, and noticed that there was something not right, abnormal with her x-rays. And next thing I know, Jen had called me and said we had an appointment at a
pediatric oncologist.
But that it didn't click that where we were going, but it was just another specialist that we were going to rule out some other causes. So met Jen at the office there, and I was supposed to, be the rock that day, but it was a mess. They did some more X-rays and saw some abnormalities that was most likely cancer or tumor. 95% accurately diagnosed Camryn with neuroblastoma, and it was stage 4 neuroblastoma. To say that our world was turned upside down, it really couldn't put it into words of how we were feeling. Disbelief and just pure shock was kind of my reactions, and just an emotional mess. After the initial diagnosis and finally coming to accepting the fact that this is
our new normal.
This is going to be something that's we're going to be dealing with for the potentially the rest of Camryn's life. And once we understood the course of treatment, that it was going to be 12 to 18 months going forward of treatment, and the doctors were very optimistic and very positive as far as the potential for beating the cancer. But we knew that as time went on, there were steps forward, there were steps back, there were challenges. But over the next, it was a little over 11 months by the time Camryn was done with her course of treatment, and she'd done wonderfully. The only time we had to go out of town was to Iowa City for a stem cell transplant, but everything else was here in town. And she had surgery to remove the tumor. She had chemo.
She followed pretty much the textbook protocol from start to finish, with minor setbacks. I mean, everything was really pretty
straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. I would say simple. I mean, because it was drawn out, and that's pretty much what we did. Not anything.
There weren't any surprises.
No surprises along the way with any of her treatment. Yeah.
Potentially a side effect or a potential issue that would come up.
And the fact that she finished her treatment within that 12-month window was amazing to us and to everybody around us.
Yeah.
So we did great through phase 1.
Unfortunately, just about close to that year of no evidence of disease, somebody had accidentally scheduled or ordered a scan that
is not typically a normal scan for that.
Because she had 2 negative MIBG scans in a row, which didn't warrant a third one. Somehow that got scheduled, and they found that she had relapsed.
But there was
there
was no evidence in any of the other testing, in any of the other blood work. Any of the other tests that they did, there was nothing that was there. So had they not done the MIBG scan that was scheduled,
the cancer would have grown
rapidly
and probably had been more challenging to start treatment again, or we'd have been she'd have had a lot more trouble starting out as opposed to, they normally don't catch a relapse that quickly. So again, we knew what we were kind of getting back into, even though our lifestyle had kind of gone back to normal. But we always had in the back of our head with the neuroblastoma that it's
high relapse rate.
High relapse rate, and it's a cell in our bodies that it's normal. We're born with it. So we had a feeling that it would find some place to hide, and it did. And
within 6 months of the relapse, we were traveling out of state to Vanderbilt to have a newer type of treatment that was only done in several places around the United States. So we did that for, we were down there for a week the first time and maybe a week the second time. And at the end of the first week, she had no sign of disease, which they were amazed, surprised, sent us on our way. We were going to go back down for a second round of treatment just as a precautionary measure. It was kind of
it's part of the protocol,
but somewhat optional because of the fact that she responded so well the first time. So we did it more precautionary, knowing that it came back once, it could come back twice. And sure enough, on our way home from the second treatment, we got the phone call 2 hours out of town that it showed positive cells again. So we came back to Des Moines and put together game plan number 3. And that was April of last year. Some more high-dose chemo, some more hospitalizations.
Which she responded well to the chemo. She always responded well to she responded well to all of her
to every treatment.
And that's what made it even more challenging to treat, because she would continue to relapse even though there were positive results from her treatment. Her cancer was extremely aggressive and very difficult to keep under control. It was only controlled for periods of time.
And when it came back with a vengeance each time, which made it more harder to control.
And the little girl's body was just, I'd said numerous times over the last couple years, I didn't know if it was the cancer that was potentially going to kill her or the treatment. And basically a double-edged sword. If we didn't treat her aggressively, she was potentially going to die from the cancer. And if we aggressively treated her, she was potentially going to die from the cancer or from the treatment. And that's a position no parent should be. But we were fortunate that, again, with the support of groups and organizations and family and friends, that we were able to make those decisions, and the doctors were extremely informed with all their decisions. So going forward, we knew that there'd be a point where we'd have to kind of go outside the box and explore other types of treatments. I kind of refer to it punting. We were getting to the point where we were punting, but we were still fighting. and it's something Camryn never gave up. She never
complained.
Yeah, she never had a pity party for herself, and so she lived as normal of a life as possible. We were getting ready to head to Boston for our next course of treatment.
You know, our plane tickets bought and reservations made, and
we had game plan, but she was pretty adamant she didn't want to go to Boston.
She was very adamant that she did not want to go to Boston. She was kind of done with the whole treatment thing. I think she was worried. She was scared.
Yeah, but it was something we were hopeful. We had the reality of her condition in the back of our minds, but we never gave up hope. We never stopped fighting. We never stopped treating her any differently than the other kids.
We never gave up living. We continued to do things. I mean,
she went to school.
She did everything that
a normal kid would do.
Yeah.
She was expected to mind her manners,
just like a normal 7-year-old should do. I mean, she didn't get any.
She showed respect, and she followed the rules, and
it was one of the things.
She got in trouble. She got punished.
We had to tell our teachers not to let her play that game. Don't fall into the Camryn trap. And so she was held accountable just like everybody else her age.
Yes.
So
yes, and so it was not on our radar that of how sick she really was, and because we always saw her as beaten, and
she always had a little bit more fight in her. Every time that you thought she didn't, she still had a little bit more fight.
We've not been the same since the day Camryn was diagnosed. It just probably the biggest way I've changed for me is you don't take life for granted, and kind of cliche-ish with that response, but it really puts your life, your family's life in perspective when you've got somebody fighting for their life. And fortunately, we had a binder that was given to us that was geared specifically towards Camryn's possible cancer diagnosis. And what was neat that
the protocol
was in there, description of the disease, the cancer, basically resources of information, giving us it gave me a tangible object that I could use as a resource, kind of use the analogy, it was kind of my anchor, it was something I could hold on to. So that was our first experience in learning about Children's Cancer Connection.
Well, the other thing is we didn't know other kids we didn't ever know another kid that had cancer. We'd never run into that before, so it was totally new experience. A lot of adults that have cancer or have had cancer, but not children. So for us, that was like a whole new piece of cancer.
Yeah. We felt like we were on an island that nobody else had experienced what we were going through, and we quickly learned that we were basically a number. We were a statistic, and unfortunately, there are lots of other families and children that have been in our shoes, and now we were going to find out that there are wonderful resources available to families. Organizations like Children's Cancer Connection provided us many opportunities to do things outside of the hospital setting.
Baseball games, Adventureland.
I mean, there's just
the Pancake Walk.
The Pancake Walk, yeah.
That was everybody's favorite, the Pancake Walk.
Camp was initially, she went when she was 5 years old, because it was summer after treatment, after
Right.
her first summer of treatment. So she was about five and a half when she went to camp the first time, and we just went through a year worth of treatment, and we were both kind of a mess when she went. Not, just thinking of, the potential of what ifs.
And leaving her in other
Yes.
people's care for a week and not knowing what she's going to get into or what could happen, or, we'd had her, I don't want to say in a bubble, but we'd had her somewhat closed in, and this was like her free reign.
Right.
I mean.
And so it was, after the week, it was the thing that I remember the most when we picked her up was she couldn't wait till next year. What are you going to start with?
She never gave up.
Yeah. Let's say probably the one characteristic that people probably most remember about Camryn is her smile. That kid could pull out a smile in the most difficult scenarios, and her laugh.
She'd laugh about the craziest things.
She had such a sense of humor.
Really know that she was sick. She never really. I mean, she knew what cancer was. I think she understood it more than we think she understood it. But she loved going to the hospital and the clinic. She absolutely.
It was our second.
It was.
Second family. It became her second. It was our lifestyle.
It was, and sometimes, honestly, I'm gonna say it, but it would suck because she didn't mind going to the hospital or the clinic. I mean, she loved it there so much that trying to get her to get out of there so that she could make it back to school for lunch was painful because she just wanted to stay there. So, I mean, she never gave up. She never realized she was sick. She never stopped living.
We had different mantras. One of our first ones was, "It is what it is." So, deal with it, move on.
You can't change it. Let's just figure out how to get going forward.
But the other one we had is we didn't have time for cancer. We had life to live. And so she really projected that ideology that we got things to do. We're gonna have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we have to go take care of some treatments here. So I would say that's a huge part of her legacy was just her positive outlook and her smile and her laughter and her being a kid.
Purple Princess.